it be like to be a human optimization specialist slash entrepreneur? Yeah, a bit to unpack there, I know, but that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to do so by way of this fantastic guest. His name is Luke Taylor, and he's well positioned to speak on this matter of human optimization. He himself was diagnosed with this rare disorder in his youth, and doctors were saying more or less you would not be walking by the time you reach adulthood. Well, he kind of went in a different direction, to the point where he was the captain of his rugby team in his teens. He even went on to represent his country in triathlons. So yeah, like I said, he knows a little bit about bringing the most out of yourself holistically from a mental, physical, and everything in between standpoint. And in this talk, we're going to get into his background a little bit more, of course, and also his businesses within this realm of human optimization. We'll even speak about what it's like running a business with his life partner and chat about things like technology, wearable technology. What role is that playing in this realm? So a lot to get into today, and I'd really like to do so. So why don't we? But before we do, I would appreciate that like or subscribe. Yeah, I know I got to throw that in there every single time. All right, let's get into it today. All right, well, first up, to bring everybody onto the same page, I thought it would make sense to allow Luke to explain a little bit more about his background in businesses and what types of activities they are engaged within. So here's a clip of him doing just that.
Yeah, so firstly, I started Tailored Health and Performance, I think honestly 12, 13 years ago now. And that's a holistic health hub where we go across mindset, lifestyle, nutrition, and movement. We have a team of specialists that wrap around the individual. But where I spend most of my time today is obviously helping support that, but also predominantly in the retreat space and the one-on-one, like executive and high performance space. So we do very immersive retreats where we bring in clinical diagnostics, wearable technologies to deeply understand the individual and help optimize their potential. And we take that a step further with our one-on-one coaching as well, where we're doing that same thing, really taking that deep dive and understanding who each individual is biochemically, physiologically, and mentally as well, because it all comes into this pool.
All right, well, next up is a clip of a day in the life. And I want you to pay careful attention to this one, because whether or not you're interested in this career or not, I think there's some insights here that'll be helpful no matter what type of job or business that you ultimately choose. And it has to do with how you structure your day, how you set yourself up for success. And the only way to do so is by knowing yourself, knowing what works for you. So anyway, have a listen.
Yeah, so I guess the big part is walking the walk. So making sure that I'm living a healthful life. So really focusing on doing the right things throughout my day. So my day is scattered with a whole bunch of health practices to help support my optimization so I can do my best work. And I really focus on, unlike most entrepreneurs where they focus on quantity over quality, I focus on the quality over quantity. So really structuring my day in an intentional way to ensure that I get the most out of the time that I spend, so I can apply the rest of that time to making sure my life is optimal in all areas, not just work. A day in my life, it's setting up for the really rigid morning routine, which is pretty consistent. So that starts with getting in an ice bath, for example. That is my non-negotiable every single day. I jump in the ice bath, and following that up, I do some strength exercises, some balance work, and that kind of alternates throughout the week to what that is. Or it could be a cardio day, depending if it's strength or cardio. Following up with some stretching, meditation, and I have to really think about this because it's such a long morning routine. It's all automated, right? It's not something I have to think. It is just part of my life. And then, I generally get into the day after about 90 minutes of being awake, after I've done the ice bath, workouts, and all that. And then I'm really rigid with my deep work block. So for me, it's from once we drop the kids off to school, it's 9 a.m. to about 12 p.m. is a really solid block for me, where I will be extremely rigid between that 9 and 11. And that 12, depending on if I'm getting into a good space of flow, I still have that heavily blocked out. And that's every single day, unless, I'm doing something like this, which is, this will creep into the block
Yeah.
even then. But for me, it's very rigid between that 9, 11, and sometimes to that 12, 1 o'clock-ish time. I do not book anything like that I don't want to prioritize
Hmm.
as my time to get into a deep flow state. So I have a whole bunch of, I guess, practices which help me entrain that flow state, if you've heard of that term of a flow state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's kind of the basis of my morning. And then in the afternoon, I will generally go. So another thing I struggle with that not many people know about is I have had a series of head injuries.
Hmm.
So traumatic brain injuries. My first one was about 3.5 years ago now, maybe 4. And I just had another one just under a year ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
my afternoons are generally a little bit lighter, and that's part of the reason why I have to structure my day in the way I do. So my afternoons will generally start with a meditation, a nap, and then I will go into more shallow work where it's responding to emails, um, calendar sort of
Mm.
bookings, and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's really trying to be intentional about the way in which I structure my day. Then obviously the kids come home, and then try to have family time. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty. I suppose that's my day. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's a key word that I'd like to center in on that was intentional that you just mentioned. And it sounds like to me like the way you structure it is it's very thoughtful, it's very deliberate and in knowing yourself and understanding what you need, to function and what your business needs as well. Well, continuing this discussion on human optimization, I did want to talk about this technology. And Luke goes on to explain, his point of view in terms of the use of wearable technology and what role it is playing within this human optimization market. So here's a clip of him doing that.
Yeah, just on that, the way in which we know, and I think gives people a lot of solace in the fact that they aren't ready to do what they're doing is by augmenting that through technology. So that's a big
Yeah.
part of what we do is we bring technology to help give people the what we refer to as bioliteracy. So the
Mm,
understanding of their own biology. And that can be really powerful through the use of wearables and clinical diagnostics to kind of deeply understand what their body's trying to tell them. Because I think in this day and age, we're so distracted by all the different things we need to do on our
yeah.
ever-ending list. This 24-hour cycle where everyone wants instant responses. We find bringing technology into the conversation to help augment your journey or your health journey is extremely powerful to give you the understanding that, oh, my heart rate variability is tanking, my resting heart rate is shooting up. Okay, my autonomic nervous system's not enjoying what I'm doing. I'm doing too much. I need to kind of sit back and reassess what do I leave out today. So
Yeah.
it can be a really powerful way to, we call it the human lie detector.
Now, in the course of our conversation, I did come to learn that Luke works with this really diverse set of clients. On the one hand, he works with premier athletes, for example, members of the New Zealand All Black rugby team. On the other, he works with C-suite executives, people that are charged with running companies, that have thousands of employees that have influence to hundreds of thousands, millions of people around the world. So how is that? What is that like? What are these people like? Are there similarities? Are there differences? So here's a clip of Luke explaining that for us. You work with like top tier athletes, New Zealand All Blacks, multi-adventure sport professional athletes, but you also work with C-suite executives and just everyday folk off the street. But what I'd like to know is like, what is the difference there in working with such diverse individuals, professionals from completely different realms? Like, is the crossover that distinct or is it kind of blended? Well, what would you say to that?
Absolutely blended, to be honest.
Yeah.
Why I work with them is because they've got discipline, and
Mm,
they didn't get to the top level by faking it, because they've
yeah.
done the time, so they know what it takes to be successful. So I refer to them as all as high performers, regardless of it being an elite athlete or a top level executive. It all requires the same amount of work, just in a different kind of capacity.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I treat them very similar. For the most
Mm,
part, same things apply. And the same things that give the lead athlete success gives executives success. And it's really getting those fundamentals sorted. I think oftentimes people think wellness or health is this, I think they beautify it a lot. It's got to be the latest and greatest tech or the most recent science breakthrough, but it just comes back to the fundamentals at the end of the day, really making sure those are strong. And once we've got the fundamentals sorted, then we can start having some fun because I do a lot of biohacking and all that kind of fun tools, but I think too often people latch onto those because that's what is on social media. That's so
Yeah.
cool and that's going to give you so much results. But people forget if they don't have a fundamental foundation, there's no point layering on tech above that. It's like a upside down pyramid. It's not going to give you
Yeah.
sustainable success.
Well, I do want to squeeze in one more clip for you here. And this one has to do with what it's like running a company that's literally on the bleeding edge of science, technology, and human optimization. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the opportunities? So here's a clip of Luke breaking that down for us.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I thrive on. I'm like, learner is my top strength. So I just love to absorb information and just figure out how to bring that into my life and my clients' lives and just to really enhance them and support them. However, I think the biggest frustration that both me and Rach feel is being on the bleeding edge is tough
Yeah.
because we find we're 3 to 5 years ahead of the masses. And it's really hard to find out people, especially in a small country like New Zealand. Hence why we work with mostly Australasia, so we can actually broaden our horizons and actually find the people that are at the top level that understand what we're trying to do. So I suppose the hardest thing for us is waiting for everybody to catch up and the fatigue that we feel by educating, and then 3 to 5 years they finally catch up and we've already moved on. And
Yeah.
it's really hard from a business standpoint to, I suppose, get scale when you're continually waiting for people to catch up.
Yeah.
And when they do catch up, you're bored. And I don't want to do anything I'm bored by. So I move on. And
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose that would probably be the biggest frustration about being on the bleeding edge of science and technology.
Well, I think it's probably about time to be wrapping up this video, but as always, I do encourage you to go check out the full-length audio version. There's just so much more contained within it. For example, we get into the inner workings of running a business within human optimization with your life partner. We also get this inside look at AI and the role that it's playing within human optimization. And also, we have this really, really mind-blowing story that lines up with the work and mission that Luke is involved in. So you're not going to want to miss that. And you can do so wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... All right, and here we go for the big request. I know I ask it every single time and really, really appreciate that like or subscribe. It's the best way to let this YouTube algorithm know that this content matters. All right, well, I think we're ready to wrap it up. So I will have another episode coming out right next week for you, so don't miss it.